It's another edition of Time About the Movies on this Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas on the day I'm recording this, December 24th, 2024. Technically, it's actually Christmas Day. You know, like how the Garfield Christmas special used to say, anytime after midnight, it is technically Christmas morning. But I digress. Today we are taking a look at not Christmas-related weekends, but March 30th, 2007. We've got three movies to look at. A big comedy starring Will Ferrell and John Heder, Disney's first movie under the new John Lasseter regime, and also a Joseph Gordon-Levitt underrated gem. So let's get right to it. Let's talk about the biggest new release of the weekend, which was Blades of Glory. Yes, Will Ferrell is the only star that needs to be marketed in the TV ads because, you know, John Heder, what did he do? What has he done recently that's been successful? I mean, then again, probably not a whole lot of things. I mean, he's done good movies overall, but none of them were massively successful movies, so I guess it makes sense to market him in the commercials for this. But he's all over the posters, he's all over the trailers. I mean, he's part of the reason why the movie is so good, and the movie is really funny. This is a movie about a mismatched pair of banned figure skaters, played by Ferrell and Heder, who become teammates upon discovering a loophole that will allow them to compete in the sport again. And basically, they have to be couples, which means they have to go up against the then real-life couple of Will Arnett and Amy Poehler. You also have William Fichtner involved in this, as well as Jenna Fisher from The Office. And, yeah, this is a really funny movie. And granted, yes, I like what Will Ferrell does with more of his dramatic roles, but Stranger Than Fiction didn't do well. I still think that movie is great overall, but this was still when he was making some pretty solid comedies overall. And this was a really solid comedy that, you know, it is the typical Will Ferrell formula, but for the first couple of years of this, it was working fine. We're not completely at the point where the movies that he was making were not going to be very good at all. We're still about a year away from that in general, but it's a very funny concept overall. It's a very funny movie indeed. Like, if you're not into figure skating at all, you could still get a lot of attachment to the movie just because of how hilarious the setup is and the situation is in general. And yeah, it's just a really good, funny movie that just works on so many levels. A lot of good talent involved throughout the movie. Nick Swartzen's also in the movie as well. Just a really good, fun movie. A really entertaining film. And, yeah, I really like it a lot. I don't think it's a classic by any means necessary. It's a very heavily flawed movie, but goddamn, when it makes you laugh pretty hard. And it does make me laugh pretty hard at times, like the big fight scene towards the end where Will Ferrell and John Heder are fighting, and or it's Will Ferrell and Will Arnett, and there's like this chase going on, and they're still in their skates, and they're trying to move around, and they just can't move because they've got the skates on and all that. Like, that's funny stuff. That's some of the things that makes this movie worth it in the end. And yeah, the movie's overall really fun. It knows what it is. It knows how stupid it is. If you have the right mindset to go into it, you can have a lot of good fun with it. I know I did. I hope you do too. So that is Blades of Glory. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie we have here, and that is Disney's Meet the Robinsons. So as I kind of mentioned, this is the start of a new era for Disney's animation department. See, after Chicken Little underperformed badly at the box office, there was a lot of also regime changes going on at Disney, with Michael Eisner leaving in 2005 and Bob Iger coming in to take over the head of the studio. Disney was finally able to get a deal done with Pixar to team up for good, and it also made John Lasseter the chief creative officer for Walt Disney Animation Studios, which meant that basically a lot of the movies that Disney had coming up had a much stronger chance of being good compared to some of the films that were coming up beforehand in terms of quality, and hopefully usher in a third golden age of Disney animation. And this was the first test of that new regime with Meet the Robinsons, based off the book by William Joyce. And you have a story about a kid named Lewis, who is an orphan who dreams of finding a family. His journey takes him to an unexpected turn where a mysterious stranger named Wilbur Robinson whisks him away to a world where anything is possible, the future. There he meets an incredible assortment of characters and a family beyond his wildest imagination, the Robinsons, who will help him lead him on an amazing and hilarious adventure with heartfelt results. And on the one hand, Meet the Robinsons does run much more efficiently and fluently than Chicken Little does, but at the same time, there's still a lot of things about it that I don't think works as well as I think it should. For one thing, I think the animation really doesn't hold as strongly as what Disney would later do. There's still kind of that choppy animation style that was in Chicken Little, although it is much more refined here, and there isn't a lot of that compared to what was in Chicken Little. But the world itself looks pretty cool. It's a very stylistic looking future in general. I think the characters themselves are not that memorable or exciting either. There's nothing really bad about them. There's just nothing about them that makes them memorable at all. The only character I thought was really cool was the bowler guy, and we get a great backstory about how he becomes the villain in here. And I will say that is a very good thing. That's part of what I really like about the movie. The message of the movie. Unlike Chicken Little, the message in the last few minutes of the film really are the strongest parts of the movie. I think the message of the film is much more established here. It actually is a really strong message, and it does a pretty good job of doing basically, you know, kind of the anti... Because, like, the bowler guy's not really a villain per se until he's a villain until you realize that it's not really him that's doing it, and the thing that's making him do it, you know, like, it leads into a lot of really good elements and things I really liked about it. And the film even itself ends with a quote by Walt Disney himself, so it's already a step in the right direction for the studio to go into. But unfortunately, I don't think it makes Meet the Robinsons overall a great movie. It definitely shows a lot of the promise that Disney would later give us with some of their movies coming forward, but it still has a little bit too much of that wannabe DreamWorks-esque style that they were trying to do with Chicken Little. And a movie that looks this nice and has a good message to it should have a better should have a better look to it than what they give us here. It kind of falls flat big time when it matters the most, with the lousy story and some pretty annoying characters at times. It's the movie, I think, that forced Disney to start thinking about, you know, making a change in their animation studio, and thankfully that changed very quickly, because the following year they would start what I think is their third renaissance overall, starting with their next movie, Bolt. But we'll get to that one eventually. But Meet the Robinsons, good movie, not a bad film at all, but definitely kind of underwhelming overall compared to some of the other movies that I expect better from Disney. But it's a step in the right direction for where they would go from here. At least that's what I think about it. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last movie, which is Joseph Gordon-Levitt in The Lookout. So Joseph Gordon-Levitt stars as a once promising high school athlete whose life is turned upside down following a tragic accident. After he tries to maintain a normal life, he takes a job as a janitor at a bank, where he ultimately finds himself caught in a planned heist. Also, something I think is kind of funny is that Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character's name in this movie is Chris Pratt. And this was around the time when Chris Pratt was still a relative unknown and is still about a couple years away from becoming more well-known with stuff like Parks and Recreation. But I think that's kind of amusing that his name in this movie is Chris Pratt. I don't know if that was entirely coincidental or not, but I mean, I don't know. He was around, but not the big star that he would eventually become just a couple years later. But what a really good movie, man. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, once again, delivering another solid film overall. Another solidly underrated movie, because he's made a lot of really good movies. Starting with this movie in particular. Not even that. Brick was the first real one, though. It's just like, you know, that kid from Third Rock from the Sun can act, man. And he's really charismatic, very charming, very engaging. Here, I think he works very well. He's got a great supporting cast to work with here. Jeff Daniels, Matthew Good, Bruce McGill, Isla Fisher, Carla Gugino. And this is written and directed by Scott Frank, who would later direct another really good underrated film, Liam Neeson's A Walk Among the Tombstones, which is a phenomenal movie, a phenomenal thriller. And this is a good, fun noir movie with a lot of really good intrigue, figuring out what this heist is all about, who's really working for who can you really trust in this situation. And it works very well on so many levels. I think it's a very entertaining film. Definitely a very underrated movie. One that did not get the attention that it deserved back then, but it's definitely one that needs to be seen. I think it's a fantastic film. I can't recommend it enough. Definitely check out The Lookout. And so, with all of that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies, and the next time we meet, we take a look at 5 movies on Easter weekend, including the sequel to Are We There Yet?, because that was a big hit, Are We Done Yet?, probably one of the worst times to release a movie like this, Grindhouse, with Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez, bringing us 2 movies that are very much an homage to, the exploitation movies of the past, and just bad timing on the releasing of this. Speaking of movies with bad timing on releasing them, Hilary Swank in the horror film The Reaping, because, that's the movie I want to take my family to on Easter weekend. We also have Firehouse Dog and also Richard Gere in The Host. So, 5 films overall to look at. We'll take a look at them on the next episode. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and notification button so you get updates on when new videos come out, because we do post here every day. Now, with all that said, I am off. I hope you have a wonderful Christmas, and a happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate, enjoy it. Have a great holiday. I'll see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.